And we're back, apparently. Here we go. A little technical difficulties on our end. Things happen. What are you gonna do? Who knows? I don't know. We'll string up Matt Sells, our producer, a little later on. We'll treat him like a pinata or something like that. When last we left off, we were talking about whether or not MLB can recover. Can table that discussion recover from a quick power outage? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. But Adam, we were talking to you, asking you to take off your fan hat here and tell me, like, what's MLB gonna do if something like this happens? Like, if you cancel the season because of the coronavirus, okay, fine, sure, we can accept that issue, and we can blame the lack of testing. But if it's haggling over money, where do we go?
I think they're going to be in trouble. You brought up 94. I saw that they lost about 5% of fans. This is different. Obviously, there's more options with sports to watch today. And just seeing, and it's a pandemic. They're already saying the players are selfish. Just take what you can get. So it's really bad optics because of the time that it's going on. So the hardcore fans are going to be back. They're never going to leave. Then they know that. But the casual fan, when it comes to going to a game, whenever that occurs again, they're not going to want to spend their money anymore. It really, depending on where you live, it's a hassle to go to a ballpark. You got to worry about traffic for a 7 p.m. game. If you have kids, are you going to tell your kid no when they want cotton candy and all that stuff? I mean, I would, but I'm a disciplinarian. But most people aren't.
Oh, just got an insight into that T-shirt.
Well, that's one of them. But no, I think they're going to take a hit, man. Because people are pissed off right now. It's the environment and what's going on. If this was just regular times and there was no pandemic and everyone had jobs, I don't think it would be a big deal. But because of what's going on now, I think they're going to take a hit. And let's not forget, the CBA is up after 2021. So the owners could also be testing the players right now and saying, how strong are they right now? Are they going to be together? So there's a lot that the owners are doing psychologically right now to see where the players are. There's a lot of testing going on with the owners.
All right, Jen, how about you? You were very outspoken about baseball yesterday, and the fans should be tolerant. We should come back to the sport. What happens if MLB doesn't play this year? Then where are you at? And what would it take? Really, what would it take for MLB to recapture the hearts of fans around the country who are losing faith in this sport?
Well, the first thing they need to do is just stop all of this. And we need to stop talking about it if at all possible, because we're making it worse. And they just need to play. They need to figure out how to play. If they don't play, I still think people will have missed baseball enough to come back, but it's not good for the future of the sport. The opportunity they have right now is that they can have 3 weeks of audience all to themselves, minimum. People watching it, people getting back in. And I think one thing that people don't realize is, and Joe Sheehan pointed this out, with the other sports, they've already been mostly paid. They already got started. They already got most of their paychecks. So MLB's in a specific situation where they said, yeah, we want to play. We made this negotiation. And we negotiated to be, prorated. And that's what we did. I think that they're going to play. They're going to have to play. The pain is the owners that come back with this ridiculous proposal, to the point that I'm almost flipped sides completely, to where I say, players just don't even play. This is just so ridiculous. But I do think they will eventually have to come to an agreement, and they will play, because it is important for the future of the sport.
I do think they'll play. I definitely do think that, listen, I said it the other day, Rob Manfred has a very long track record of getting that 11th hour deal done and making it happen. The question is how much of a bad taste is this leaving in a lot of people's mouths? NHL was jumping back into it. They're like, okay, fine, we're going to do this. Gary Bettman sets up a 24-team playoff structure. NBA seems to be pretty close on their plan right now. But
NBA's mostly been played. You see what I'm saying? Those players have mostly been paid already. So, they don't have any reason to do this. You can't really blame the baseball players. They're like, look, we even negotiated ahead of time. So, come on. So, the optics are really bad for Major League Baseball. But if you look at the facts, can you blame them? What they need to do is just quit doing this ridiculous – this is really on the owners for making this ridiculous proposal. Fishbowl because it makes them look ridiculous. It makes the players look worse. It's bad for the entire sport. So boo on you owners.
But the majority of people are slamming the players, which I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Well,
I was going to say, this is like that trade. You brought up fantasy trades before relating to this, Howard. This is like that fantasy trade you're about to make. Both you and the person, your trading partner, agree. And then right before the proposal's actually sent, all of a sudden it's, oh, no, add this and add that. And if they're going to be in for the 50-50, they should have just stuck with that. That's what boggles your mind. It boggles my mind. But I've experienced that with fantasy trades as well, where it's like, oh, we have an agreed upon deal. Oh, wait a minute. Just add this other player in, and it pretty much unravels the entire deal.
Do you believe the owners that when they say they negotiated this with the idea of fans being in the stadium having an impact, though, on the initial negotiations? Like, if you believe that that's their side of the argument here, then there are some things that change in the initial contract agreeing, but there should still be a closer, proposal to their revenue splitting or their salary splits than what the owners are sending over to them now. Like, I do agree that the fact that there are no fans, that there are no concession money being taken in, ticket sales, all of those things that are the teams are losing that revenue, but they're just so far on the other end of the spectrum on what they're offering the players that, like you guys are saying, it's almost a non-starter for the players to even try to counter-propose an offer there.
I don't believe anything the owners are saying. They don't want to open up their books. So when they have good times, they don't say, all right, it did better than expected. We'll give you more money. But now that things are down, they want the players to take the hit. So I don't believe anything the owners are saying. And there's a lot of reports that they'll still make a profit. It won't be what it was, losing concessions and fans, but they're still going to profit. You could tell the owners don't care if there's a season or not with this offer. They're good. They figure like, hey, if we don't play, we're still going to be fine. We're not going to make what we thought, but, we're okay. Players don't get a paycheck. They lose.
Right. Yeah. And that's the big deal about it for me as well. I agree with that statement. That I can't believe that the owners said, anything that they say. If they genuinely believe that there would be a it would be a shortened season, but there would be fans immediately, then they're obviously they're not watching the news. They're not keeping up with current events. They have no idea. They don't have people researching this stuff over and over again for them to tell them what the realistic expectation is. I think, this is garbage. This is the Billionaires Boys Club. With some really old racist ladies also who own a bunch of teams who really don't care at all. I mean, you're right. Listen, this is, you take any business that can survive on a separate revenue stream, and go from there. That all of a sudden this business has, an account that's keeping it afloat over here. So the other one's there. Yeah, okay. If it doesn't come back, so be it. So I think it's absolutely disgusting. It's going to be a very, very tough task for MLB if the season doesn't play to bring back fans. We'll table that discussion for the time being right now, and we'll wait till we get the the FU counter proposal from Tony Clark and the players. That ought to be really good, right? You just imagine you just Xerox like giving somebody the finger and just faxing that over to every owner right there and say, this is our counter proposal. That might work. Buzzing around the interwebs right now, especially over on Twitter. Everybody's super stoked, super excited. The Scott Fishbowl 10 hashtag SFBX is starting up, and invites went out. Has everybody here received their invite?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What do we say to all the losers out there who are still sitting there crying and whining about the fact that they don't have their Scott Fishbowl invite yet?
There's plenty of time.
I have to tell you, I didn't know I was supposed to sign up for the Sky. I didn't know much about the Scott Fishbowl. This is my first time ever, this is my first full season as an analyst. And so I saw people crying about the Scott Fishbowl, and I thought, oh my gosh, well, I have FOMO. I want to be part of the Scott Fishbowl. So I went immediately and I signed up a day ago, and I've been like praying, like, what if I don't get into the Scott Fishbowl? Will you people judge me? And then Howard sent the questions. I still didn't have an invite. And right before this stream, I got my invite. So no more FOMO. Super excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of time to sign up for it. If you clicked on the link, there's a form. And I know up until like the final hours last year, he was sending it out to people. But I got mine the other day, so it'll be my third year in it, and it's definitely a solid league to be in. It's good for a good cause. It's a fun time for all.
The money he raises through Fantasy Cares is absolutely phenomenal. And yes, whether you play in the Scott Fishbowl League or not, you definitely want to look up, find those links. We'll find it during the show here and hopefully tweet it out from @FantasyAlarm just to make sure that you can see it, make a donation. The theme for Scott Fishbowl this year is toys, apparently. Now, that covers a broad spectrum of things, especially if you're inside the mind of Adam Ronis right now. Right. Lube is not a toy, Adam. It is not a toy.
It's a prop.
Lube.
I don't consider that a toy. It can be used with toys, but.
So I'm going to throw a little surprise question at everybody right now. Your favorite toy growing up that you would want your division named in the Scott Fishbowl? Yeah, that's right. There was some weird. It was like a video game theme last year, and I got a character name who I didn't even know existed. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit more of some retro toys in there as well. Anybody want to start off? Who's got the favorite toy here? Not Adam.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll go with some favorite toys. Growing up, I had about 1,000 wrestling action figures. So if we were going, favorite toys growing up playing, I had all of the, WWF, action figure kit. I had the wrestling ring. I had the steel cage. I had the whole thing for wrestling figurines there.
But how are you gonna name a division? That are you the Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Yeah, you're the action figure division. Can be the.
Okay, the action figure division. Fensty, how about you? Same thing. You just want to piggyback John on that one?
No, I'm staring at my wrestling figures in my studio right now. So, John, I'm with you on that. Yes, I am. But point of order, Howard, is a video game console considered a toy?
No.
Okay.
We did video games last year.
Okay. So then I'm going to go with my Super Soaker XP 2000. Was a big water gun guy. I wish I still had a water gun. So I'm hoping I'm in the water gun division.
Really? Do we consider a water gun a toy?
Yeah. Of course it's a toy.
Okay. I'm just checking. I'm checking. I don't know. Adam seems to be like, I don't know.
You can combine it with Nerf guns, water guns.
Adam's coming in with the slip and slide for his choice.
Ooh, who wouldn't want to come in with the slip and slide, right? The Stretch Armstrong and the slip and slide, both hot commodities. All right, Jen. Jen, do you want the Barbie division?
No, I want the Care Bears because we care and we're donating to charity. And we'll do the Care Bear stare. It'll be awesome. I'll have hugs a lot.
There we go. Now I just keep picturing that. Was it the Family Guy one where the Care Bear just launches himself into the oncoming traffic? Yeah. All right. So Care Bear. So I got wrestling action figures. I got a water gun, and I've got a Care Bear. Adam, bail me out here, man. Give me something.
I don't know. I didn't really have a fan. G.I. Joe's, Transformers.
Action figures. Those are action figures.
Baseball figures. Yeah. Those were the stuff.
Exactly.
Nobody had other toys, other games, anything like that?
No.
What about a Slinky?
Did you guys? Slinky division would be rock solid, man. Rock solid. I would be down for the Slinky division, no doubt about it.
What about Barrel of Monkeys?
Barrel of Monkeys. See, another great toy. Why not? Remote controlled cars. How about that?
That's a good
one.
What
about the Tyco tracks? Anybody have those Tyco tracks or the glow in the dark or crawled up the wall? Anything like that?
No.
I don't know what that is.
Jeez Louise.
Some Legos. Legos works, right?
Some Legos, yes. You can be in the Lego division, John. No problem.
Legos are super popular. There's a Lego world literally 3 feet from my house.
You know what? That's it. Next week when we come back here, I want top 5 toys.
Nice.
Toys. That's what I want. This is nonsense here. Surprise you guys. Surprise.
Oh, what's your toy here, Howard? What do we got?
What do you mean? I just rattled off a bunch. I could go
with
the
Slinky.
Tyco racetrack. Right? How about Hot Wheels? Hot Wheels cars. How great were those?
Yeah,
Hot Wheels, definitely.
All right. Who didn't love to play Hungry Hungry Hippos?
Love
Yeah,
Hungry
I
Hungry
played
Hippos.
Oh, see?
I like the purple hippo.
Playmobiles? What, Adam? What are you
I like
saying?
Black Hippo.
Yeah, of course you do that.
What about a Fisher-Price basketball hoop? Where would that fall under?
A Fisher-Price basketball would
I had
fall under
that.
basketball hoop. Yeah, that would be considered. I could consider that a toy.
Nice.
You guys need work. Adam, that shirt obviously for me comes in a triple XL, right? Of course it does.
Oh, I thought it was bigger than that.
Ooh. That might be your preference. All right. We'll table that discussion here. When you guys come back, I want toys. I want legit toys, man. Look at John, the only one not laughing here. What's the matter, John? You having a tough day, John?
Sorry, there's just a lot going on that is currently, catching my eye.
There's what?
A lot of things going on that are distracting me a little bit here. So.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. Can we? Do you want to sub in somebody else for
No,
this hour here?
You got my attention here. We're going forward. We're good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
A change on the fly.
What was that?
I said like hockey, a change on the fly. You know,
Exactly.
they change.
Yeah. I'll go over the boards. We'll get like Malin in here to talk about NASCAR today. Yeah, it's fine. You just gotta yell, change it up, right? That's what the Mighty Ducks change it up.
Change it up.
I'm so much more looking forward to Friday's live stream now than today's at this moment.
Oh.
Yep. All right, late round auction draft strategy. Let's talk about that. That was something I was talking to my producer Drew Phelps. SiriusXM had a whole draft, an auction where it was mostly producers. There were some hosts who were involved in the draft. I don't think anybody here was involved. Fency, were you in that draft?
No, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They tried to lure you into be the auctioneer. Yeah.
Exactly. But I proposed the trade that got denied, so I did not become the auctioneer. A callback for the auctioneering for an hour, but nope.
Didn't happen. All right. Well, one of the things that Drew wanted me to talk about, and we're going to talk about this on Fantasy Alarm later on today anyway, but curious as to everybody's thoughts on late round auction draft strategy. I'm talking about how you go about adjusting your prices that you have. Like, let's say you're looking at the Fantasy Alarm cheat sheet and you see that there are certain players who are in that $21 to $23 range, but everybody was, prices were ridiculous early on. Is that going to bring them down? How do I do that? So we can talk about adjusting prices on the fly, when to nominate players whom you are that hammer at the end. So let me start with we'll start with Fensty. You're Mr. Auction. You love auctions. Talk to me, man. Late round strategy for you. How do you go about it?
Sure. So what I do is I give myself, and I always talk about this, how I write tiers. I write a lot of players in tiers to keep myself that's not only motivated to spend, but also in check as well, so I'm not overspending. So towards the end of my auctions, I try to keep a max bid of, let's just say, $5 before we get down to dollar days. In the latter stages, sometimes it'll move from 10 to 5, depending on how much I have left. Because here's the thing, when it comes to dollar value players, if you're just sitting there with $1 and you want to try to sneak someone by, it's not going to happen. Someone's likely going to bid you up unless it's you and one other person in the auction. So I try to keep that max bid as high as I can. And for a safety measure for me, that's been $5. So I'd say that's a big strategy, is making sure that you're thinking about later in the auction and that at some point, hey, $15 is your limit. At some point, $5 is your limit. I always try to keep that max bid. So when I have one of my super sleepers, I know I can get that player. And I'll also say this too, when it comes to the hammer actually scares me. I used to be that guy that would just sit around for the first hour and not spend $1, and then I would get screwed. And that's because even though I might have the most money, there will always be at least one or two players, and I'm talking in casual auctions as well, that'll realize, hey, this guy still has a lot of money. He has to spend. So they're going to try to force your hand to overspend on that player. So I don't like being in that position with the hammer unless all the prices are outrageous, but that's normally not going to be the case. There are going to be a couple players you could spend on earlier.
Jen, what do you do as far as adjusting the prices? Like when things start off and, everybody's got money and everybody sits there and they're fine going a few bucks out of budget. If it's going to land them a Juan Soto, a Christian Yelich, or Garrett Cole or somebody like that? How do you go about making those adjustments on your own bid prices?
It's a good question. I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. I've always just kind of done it. So it's good that you're asking me. I keep lots of lists. I always try to remind myself, like if I see that Christian Yelich and Juan Soto are going, I try to keep lists of people, I guess sort of like Finstey's tiers, that are still available so that I keep a reality check of don't panic. I always try to keep myself in a don't panic stage so that when I make my bids and I make my choices, I can do it confidently. And then I just try to make sure I have plenty of players that I'm okay with at $1 if I need them to be $1. Also, when I get to later rounds, one strategy a lot of people don't realize is they start bidding at $1 and end up paying $3 for sometimes when you can just bid $2 and be done with the player. I'm also an advocate of sometimes if you really want someone that you think isn't going to be a lot, using the surprise method and throwing them out early. I remember I did this a few years ago in an auction with Adam Ronis. This was before Charlie Morton was a big deal, but I had this feeling he was going to have a great season. And right in the middle of Mike Trout and whoever was great that year, I don't know, Justin Verlander, I threw out Charlie Morton for $4. And there were crickets. And I was able to lock that person in my spot and make sure I had that money back in my budget.
Adam, your nomination process, similar? You want to try and sneak in a few guys early, maybe a player that most people aren't keen on that you just kind of throw out there and hope to get him at a bargain?
Yeah, you can do that with utility players. Nelson Cruz, perfect example from this year. No one wants to lock up the utility early. David Ortiz, an example from recent years. People are scared to do it. And I think someone did it in labor actually this year in the auction I was in. And, people are like, I don't want to lock up my DH early. And you get Nelson Cruz at a bargain. My approach is different depending on 12 or 15 team leagues. 12 team leagues, which I don't really do a lot, but labor this year was 12 team auction. My plan was I'm getting big bats and I'm swinging early, and it's something I don't do. One of my flaws in auction is sitting back too much, and I know that, and I still do it. I sit there and I'm like, I want to hold my money, and I have to get over that, and I got over it in the 12 team labor league. I came out swinging, and I got Trout, I got Lindor, I got DeGrom, and I got Betts. Because in a 12-team league, there's going to be so many good dollar players. I don't care. Give me 6 or 7 if they don't work out. I know there's going to be guys on the waiver wire. 15-team league, it's a little bit different, even though I was a little bit more aggressive in the 15-team NFBC auction that I did this year and came out with some big players. So I think you kind of have to figure out what your flaws are in auctions and try to overcome them. I know for years, for me, it was just sitting back too long. And even the league, I think the gen that we do, the GDD, I kind of do that. I get like 3 $30 players. I never wound up with Betts, Trout, or any of those guys up top. And my teams are usually pretty competitive. But, there's times it works because you'll be sitting in the middle and you're able to pluck off a ton of guys you want. And everyone else doesn't have the money. But you got to make sure you don't get caught in that position where you're overpaying. Because as Justin said, you're one of 2 guys with the most money. And now you're like, oh, man, I got to get this player because there's a big drop-off, and now you overpay for mediocrity. That's the worst spot to be in.
Yeah, well, the second worst spot to be in. The worst spot to be in is not spending your money
on the table.
Sitting there, leaving auction bucks on the table.
Yeah. And people are proud of that. And I don't understand why.
You should be embarrassed.
You're stupid. You want to spend all of your money in auctions. You don't get any. It doesn't transfer to your fab or anything like that. I see people leaving $15. I'm thinking you made a mistake.
Yeah, can't take it with you. That's the auction draft strategy that I subscribe by. I'm definitely one that goes out firing early. I'll spend a lot of my money to get the top players, and it definitely is different a little bit for baseball because there's a lot more depth there. There's a lot more players at the bottom that you can kind of get for $1 or $2. So spend your money up, get the elite players, and go that way. For football, I do the same type of strategy, but it's because there isn't as much depth. So I want to get the top running backs and the top wide receivers because at the end of the draft, you're really there with backups or wide receiver 4s, wide receiver 5s. And if you don't have those top guys to slot in, then you're really falling behind. So for me, I go out firing. I spend my money early. There's a lot of people that kind of take that strategy of like, I'll wait. I'll get a guy in the middle. I'll wait. I'll get the guy in the middle. Then like you're all saying, next there is nobody left in the middle and you have all your money left. So that's kind of how I go about my draft strategy there with auctions.
$22 on Mike Williams. You're like,
that was That was me last year, $21, and it was tough. I thought he was going to have a much better year, and that right there, I went against my own rules because at that point, and I remember this specifically, what I thought was I'm spending 15 on my what was a wide receiver 3 at this point, or wide receiver 2, and then all of a sudden, because I wasn't patient and I wasn't looking at my tiers as much to keep myself in check, I went up an extra $6, and I regretted it then, and then it didn't work out for me.
It also is a little different, too, I guess, depending on the strategy you take, where, last year going into football drafts, Mike Williams was a popular, breakout candidate. Everybody thought, like, this is the year that Mike Williams, all the touchdowns, is going to get the yards. You can throw guys like that out there and hope that people will overbid on them because they're buying into the hype. That's something that can, play to your advantage at times.
Big time. I use that strategy a lot. Like, I don't particularly believe in Tatis Jr. this year. He's someone I would throw out early and get people to spend a lot of money. Like, I do that all the time with nominations.
Smart.
Yeah. Adam, more inclined to go be more aggressive at the onset in football than in baseball?
Yeah, I think so, especially this year where the running backs, the 3-down backs are rare. So, you can spend up, and there's so much depth at wide receiver. You don't need to pay for a quarterback in most leagues, especially if you only start one. So I think you're going to see it in football a lot with the top running backs this year. People are going to spend a lot of money.
So, all right, let's say you got $200 budget is usually on average of what you're spending in football. Let's look at the top 4. You've got McCaffrey, you've got Saquon Barkley, Zeke Elliott, and Dalvin Cook. Raise your hand if you'd spend $50 on those players. 55, 60, 65. Oh, one comes down. $70 out of $200 budget. Jen still going 70. Would that be for McCaffrey only?
It would be for
or would
McCaffrey.
That be for any of the 4?
It would only be for McCaffrey, and I would not have said I would do this until I did a mock draft a week ago and found out that, in fact, I did do it when I didn't think I would, just to try. If I spent more than $70, could I build a team? And it turns out that I did build a really quality team. I was really happy with my team, so I'm not afraid to do it. I really think Christian McCaffrey could be that much better, and he's worth it. And I think that if you look back at what he did last year, he was probably worth $95. But, obviously you don't want to spend $95. I'm not advocating that. But I feel comfortable spending that kind of money for someone like Christian McCaffrey this year and being able to build around him.
Okay. All right. Well, we're spending up big money for those running backs, the elite running backs. Adam, you said wide receiver super deep. Quarterback, you don't have to spend a lot of money over there. Does that depth at the wide receiver position, the fact that you don't have to spend up for a quarterback, does that incline you to spend more on the elite tight ends? John, with the depth at the wide receiver position, would you spend a significant amount more money on a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle than you would even for your wide receiver 1?
I mean, I don't know if I would spend the wide receiver 1 level of money, but I mean, I feel like, given the depth at the wide receiver position, that I almost felt a little bit more inclined to take a tight end earlier than I normally do. I usually, again, wait on tight ends. I'll take a guy, around 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere after that, after I'm secure with my running back, secure with my wide receivers. But like we're all talking about, and seemingly we all agree, like there's so many good wide receivers out there. If you can go ahead and in the end of the second round, grab, a Kelce or Kittle, third round, an Andrews or an Ertz, and slot them in there and have a pure number 1 tight end that can give you 1,000 yards receiving, knowing that there's depth guys I've seen in drafts, Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham Jr., guys like that go in the 4th, 5th rounds in some drafts. Like the amount of depth there is at receiver, to me, so far in some of the mocks I've done, I've tested it out and seen what my lineups look like with an early tight end, and I've gone, kind of liked how that's turned out.
But even more specifically in auction, I think I would be more likely to spend more money on a tight end this year, on an elite tight end, simply because of that depth at wide receiver. Because when we're talking about rounds, I get nervous, taking a tight end that early and missing out on an elite wide receiver. But I think that I would be able to still purchase an elite wide receiver, an elite tight end, and still be able to fill out with great wide receivers that are going to be, or great, running backs by committee that can end up taking over later in the round. In fact, I found that I could get someone like Allen Robinson in that same auction where I purchased Christian McCaffrey for like $18. That's great value. So that leaves me money to purchase a Travis Kelce. Now, in a snake draft, I'm not sure I would do the same way. But in an auction where I can spend the money the way I want to, yeah, I feel more confident taking an elite tight end. And I think it might be a really smart move.
Well, on yesterday's Fantasy Alarm show on Sirius, Fensty and Adam, you guys were both huge proponents of the Kansas City Chiefs as being that top triad of Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Usually when you're making your draft selections, if you are a wait on quarterback type person, and I believe both of you are, if you're going to grab that elite tight end, you've got to sacrifice either wide receiver or running back. Is it just a no-brainer to sacrifice wide receiver there? Or if you're picking at that tail end of the draft, let's say you're picking, 11th or 12th in a 12-team draft, dare you go with Devontae Adams and then a Travis Kelce there and sacrifice running back? Adam, you first.
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, again, I think you can't have a set strategy, man. You got to be flexible, and the draft room determines it. I've brought up, I had no plans of getting George Kittle last year, but he fell too far. I took him. So I'm going to do the same thing this year. And I got to say this. All of you guys are saying it. It's talked throughout the industry. If everyone's going to pass on these wide receivers, I'm going to take the value and get these elite guys because I feel like everyone's saying the same thing. And when everyone does the same thing, it's the wrong strategy because you're all doing the same thing. So I've gotten Julio Jones late in the second round. I'm supposed to pass on a guy that gets huge volume every single year. I know he doesn't score touchdowns. He hasn't had double-digit touchdowns since his second year in the NFL. But that doesn't mean he can't do it this year. My one concern with Julio is he's getting older. He's over 30. He has not missed a game in the last 3 years. I don't think people realize that, or he's missed one. He's definitely played 2 16-game seasons out of the last 3 years. I don't think he's missed a game in the last 3 years. I know he's constantly banged up, limping on the field, but he's played through it. But I always worry about the receiver, that a big receiver on the other side of 30, it could just fall off a cliff. I don't think that's going to happen this year, although he did have his lowest yards per target last year, 8.9. But if Julio Jones is falling in the late second round, I'm going to take him, man. Why? I'm supposed to pass on him because there's a lot of wide receiver depth. One of the success that I believe I have in fantasy is because I capitalize on other people's mistakes. So if you guys are just going to say, oh, well, there's so many good wide receiver values, we all know that all those guys are not going to hit as good as it looks now. And I've done a lot of wide receiver work. They're all not going to hit. You're going to let Julio Jones fall to the end of the second round? I'm taking them all the time. As far as tight ends, I haven't gotten Kelce, Kittle, Ertz, Andrews yet, but I am willing to take him in the right spot. Like, if you're picking, say, third in a draft, you could probably start off with 2 running backs. You might be able to come back in round 3 and get Kittle. I would do that, and then I would go wide receiver around 4, 5, 6. I would love that start, actually. I haven't been able to do it yet.
That was one of my first drafts. That's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I took Zeke, and then I came back around, and I was able to get another running back. I think I took Fournette, and then I went ahead and took Kittle in the third round. It's just being able to get the early, the secure running back positions, and then get your tight end there because the depth at wide receiver was there.
And was that best ball?
Yeah, it was the best ball draft.
Yeah, see, in best ball, I'm more inclined to do the running backs. But as I said, in redraft, if you guys are all going to push up the running backs, I'll get one. Then I'm more willing to do the tight end wide receiver strategy because, again, you only have to start in most leagues a maximum of 2 running backs. So if I get that one guy, and obviously it depends on when you pick, but if I'm picking in the top 5 and I get Cook, Kamara, Zeke, I have no problem waiting on that second running back and figuring it out with a middle to late round pick or the waiver wire. And then I'll just, in that strategy, I'm more willing to take that tight end in rounds 3 or 4.
Fensty, how about you?
I am one that always waits on the tight end. Now, Howard, we were just in a best ball draft together. I took Darren Waller in the 6th round. Thought that value was too good to pass up at the time. Loved my roster composition. The first 3 rounds, I'm always thinking running back, wide receiver, not quarterback, not tight end. And if any of you are in an auction with me and you want Travis Kelce, you're going to have to pay for him because I'm bringing him up with my first bid. I'm going to get money spent off the board, and I know everyone's going to love Travis Kelce. That is literally going to be my first bid in every auction because I want someone spending $30 to $35, maybe even someone spending $40 because people are so ready. They want to spend. It's the beginning of the auction. I'm going to take advantage of that emotional factor.
That could backfire because people don't want to spend on tight end.
Bro, never has. Never has for me.
All right.
It could.
I just feel like Kelce. I feel like
Never
Kelce
has.
again. Kelsey's a different animal. I mean, the guy's got 1,300-yard upside. He had double-digit touchdowns a couple years ago, and he had almost 100 catches last year with Mahomes out a couple of games. I mean, like, he is basically a wide receiver one type play at the tight end position. It's not, and Kittle's slowly approaching that. You know, it's not like we're talking about Ertz or Andrews is unproven. You know, Kelce, I think, feel like rightfully deserves to be in that like conversation with the top wide receivers. Obviously not Michael Thomas or even DeAndre Hopkins at times, though there's some conversation with him moving to Arizona. Like, to me, Kelce paying up for him isn't a terrible play just because of the position he gives you purely based off the production.
Well, he's had 136 and 150 targets the last 2 years. That's more than a lot of wide receivers. And he usually finishes, when you group him with the receivers, as top 10. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with paying for him. And I just think most people don't want to spend on a tight end. They feel like it's not worth it, but Kelce is, and he's in the best offense in the NFL. And remember, Pat Mahomes was not healthy last year. I think people forget that. I mean, you saw towards the end of the year how Mahomes played. Mahomes is phenomenal, and he was hurt. He had 2 different injuries, and he played through it, missed a couple games. But that offense is explosive.
It definitely is. All right, well, let's table the tight end discussion here. Let's wrap things up on the show. Something a little on the fun side here. I want you guys to each turn the world onto one artist who you think doesn't get enough love. And when I say artist, it's all open. Painting, sculpting, musician, however you want to do it, carving, doesn't matter to me. You guys give me I'm gonna go to Ronis here first, because there's gonna be some like crazy old school hip hop person that nobody's ever heard of yet is just spitting bars in Ronis's ear all the time. Talk to me, buddy. You go first.
Yeah, you are correct. And I have mentioned this guy before, but again, it's a new audience. And there are some people who claim to be hip hop experts or aficionados that don't even know who he is. And I feel like he probably would have blown up big time, and that's Big L. Throw your L's up. He died at the age of 24 in 1999. But Jay-Z loved him, and Jay-Z was going to sign him to Rockefeller Records before he got shot. So Big L is a great storyteller, excellent metaphors, and he's funny. Like, I sent Justin a clip of him freestyling with Jay-Z on the Stretch Armstrong-Barbito show. And I said, I guarantee you're going to laugh at least 3 times listening to this. And Justin's like, yeah, I laughed like 4 or 5 times, because he just has funny punchlines. And I just wish he would have been alive to see where his career would have gone. And Big L. So there might be a lot of people who are younger that don't know. But Big L, if you got to check out, go to YouTube and check him out, especially if you like lyrics and funny storytelling.
I'll take that link. You can send that over to me. John, how about you?
Yeah, so I asked you before if this had to be music or like anything.
Right, because you have no other outside hobbies, dude.
This is not really my forte. So
Monet.
I'm gonna plug actually my sister's really good friend who is actually a painter. Her name is Alexandra Giasulo. She has a website. You can buy her art. She's done murals. So we can tweet out her website afterwards if you want. She does a lot of great things. She does photography. She's actually my sister's wedding photographer as well. So there's a lot of great things that she does there, and she's actually a very talented artist as well. So she's trying to do the thing. So we'll go there.
All right, Fency, we'll go to you.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the hip hop scene, and there's a rapper who's been around for probably 6 years. His name, Lil Dickey. That's his sign, Lil Dickey. I've told you all about this show, Dave, on FX. I told Ronis about it. He watched it. He liked it. That show actually turned me on to the rapper himself, and that's because, he's that good of a lyricist, and he's got a good flow. You can understand everything he's saying. He's been on with Sway a million times. He can freestyle for 3 to 5 minutes easily. He talks about things like, instead of spending your money and how to save your money. One of my favorite tracks of his is called Save That Money. So he's just funny. He raps about suburban life and, dealing with a crazy, uncontrollable mother and everything like that. So a lot of things that, a lot of us can relate to. And I'll say this show, Dave alone, if I can just pimp him for that, This show, Dave, is just hysterical. It's 30-minute episodes. Howard, I know you would love it. I don't know if you've seen it. It's just a funny show. He freestyles on it. Some of his newest songs are involved in the show, and it's just excellent. It's just delightful. Watch it.
All right. Well, Jen Piacenti, wrap things up for us today.
All right. Number one, you guys need to check out an artist called Jamie Cullum. He's a little bit of a jazz pop artist. He's British. He accompanies himself on the piano, and he does the coolest covers. He can take things like Please Don't Stop the Music and make it the sexiest, jazziest cover you've ever heard, and not in a cheesy way, like in a really cool way. He can cover any kind of music, and he writes music as well too. And he's British, as I said. His name's Jamie Cullum. And number two, real quick, I have to plug this. I am coaching someone that's on America's Got Talent. He is so talented. I really believe he's going far. His name is Cameron Ross. That's Cameron with the K. The world doesn't know about him yet, but the world is going to know about Cameron Ross. You guys hit him up on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, any of those things, because he is the future of talent in America.
All right. Well, there you go. Some nice, helpful suggestions for everybody out there. Check it on out. That's going to do it for today's episode of Table That Discussion. We apologize for the earlier technical difficulties. We'll get them all fixed next time. For Justin Fensterman, Jen Piacenti, Adam Ronis, and Jon Impemba, I'm Howard Bender. Big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. This has been Fantasy Alarm TV's Table That Discussion. We'll catch you next time.